Welcome to the New Mom Talk podcast, your go-to podcast for evidence-based answers to your burning questions about parenting. Join us as we dive into commonly Googled topics and hear from experts and real moms. Let's navigate parenthood together, one question at a time. Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about the importance of the nervous system. So for that, we have Shannon Yeager, who I am so excited to have because of your background. You teach yoga, you have sound baths. Anyway, so I'm going to let you share. If you can start off with telling us a little bit about yourself and we'll dive in.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you to you for having me on your podcast and taking this time to chat about a topic that I think is so important for moms and really all humans everywhere. So I am a new mom to my daughter, Kathleen, and as we are recording this in this current moment, she is 11 months old. So we're almost at the 1 year mark, which is wild to think about. And raising my daughter has really been the entire inspiration behind the work that I do. So I am a wellness coach, and my purpose in this life is to help moms regulate their nervous system in order to react more calmly, in order to tune into their intuition, and in order to reconnect to the things that truly light them up and fill them with joy. And a little bit of background on my story. So after my daughter was born, I knew that I wanted to really focus my attention on raising her, being there for the milestones, being able to take her to the doctor's appointments. And I also wanted to do work that fed my soul and made me really joyful and happy and provided me with that flexibility and abundance. And of course, being a new mom and not really necessarily knowing what that would look like for me career-wise or how to balance it all, it was overwhelming at first. Not to mention, I was exhausted from waking up at all hours with my newborn, as I'm sure any mom listening to this can relate to. And so I realized I wasn't prioritizing self-care. I wasn't prioritizing mindfulness in the beginning. I was just trying to make sure that we were all staying healthy and alive. And so that would oftentimes mean that, it was 2 p.m., still hadn't brushed my teeth in the beginning. Showering was a lot less frequent than I would have liked. And I just started to realize I wasn't showing up as the mom and the partner that I really wanted to be showing up as. So I have been a wellness practitioner for 10 years. And I realized I have all the tools I actually need in order to get back to that person that I want to be and show up more fully. So I went back to my roots. I started meditating while drinking my coffee. I started to put on sound baths while I was nursing my daughter. I was finding these little windows of time where I could actually give back to myself and just tune inward. And as soon as I started doing that, I was able to feel more calm, and then that light bulb went off, and I realized my purpose is to help other moms do exactly this: practice self-care and then figure out what comes next. So now I weave all of those things together in the clients, in the moms that I coach, and I've found that it really helps moms learn how to reprioritize themselves when they are in this new journey and they're learning so much, and it helps them show up how they want to show up too. So I'm really grateful to be able to offer this to moms, and I do a lot of in-person events with San Diego Mom Crew, and then I also do a lot of virtual work with clients wherever they are in the world.
You see me shaking and nodding my head oh my God, yes, this is so relatable, right? The whole self-care piece, the brushing your teeth at 2 p.m. if you got to brush your teeth, and you think about the mom that you are going to be when you first become a mom and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, right? Even just the pregnancy. Oh my gosh, I want to be such a cute little pregnant lady. And then you might have really bad morning sickness and whatnot. And so things don't always turn out the way that you mentally think, the way that you envision. And it takes work to kind of get there, especially the self-care piece as a mom. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's basically the entire motherhood journey. We are constantly giving to others. We're making sure our little ones are fed and nourished and happy and loved. We're making sure that, you know, our house is not in disarray. We're juggling a million different hats, and oftentimes we are forgetting to put ourselves in that list, in that priority list. And so then our cup starts to get depleted, and eventually we are running on empty, and we have a lot less tolerance for the hard moments, and it's a lot harder to get out of bed and be joyful and model these behaviors to our children when our cup is so empty.
yes. And you often hear people say you can pour from an empty cup because you're a mom. And theoretically, yes, you can, but how well are you doing that if you're constantly empty, right? You're not performing at your best. So with
Right.
all of that said, let's start off with just the very basics. Can you explain what the nervous system regulation is, and why is it essential for overall health and well-being?
Yeah, so I'm going to get a little nerdy for anyone who is listening and maybe isn't so familiar with the nervous system. So we have what's called the autonomic nervous system, and it is responsible for the things that happen automatically in our body that we don't even often think about. It's our things like breathing, our heart rate, our stress response, our ability to relax. And within that, we have what's called the sympathetic nervous system. It is responsible for our fight or flight mode. So it kicks in when we're in danger, like when we're being chased by a tiger. We absolutely need
Which is very
response.
often.
I mean, sometimes it feels like it, you know, in the day-to-day, sometimes it feels like it. We'll get into that in a bit. But it is so necessary, you know, it keeps us alive in those dangerous moments. What happens when that kicks in is our adrenaline starts pumping, our breathing quickens, digestion shuts down so that we're able to run away from that tiger, and we get prepared to deal with that imminent danger. Now, on the flip side of that is our parasympathetic nervous system. So this is our rest and digest response, and it allows our body to heal and replenish, but it's hard to access that when we're in danger. So it really kicks in when we feel safe. And I kind of mentioned this before, but we need both of these responses in order to survive. Both are critical to our well-being. But the problem is, most of us, including myself sometimes, are operating in a heightened sense of that sympathetic nervous system. So our body doesn't always understand the difference between receiving an urgent, time-sensitive email and being chased by a tiger. The same fight or flight mode will sometimes kick in, and because we have notifications going on our phones 24/7, and we are in a society where we go, we actually get used to being in fight or flight mode most of the time, and we don't see all the detrimental effects it can have on our body.
I love that you mention all of these and then just kind of go into the basics of like the parasympathetic nervous system, because, you know, if you do yoga and whatnot, these are, or just any sort of exercise, it's a part of all of this, right? So now let's get into a little bit of today's fast-paced world. How does an unregulated nervous system impact you both physically and mentally? Because we have so many pressures. You're constantly, like you mentioned, you have emails that are urgent. Maybe you have your phone blowing up. Oh my goodness, your baby's crying. You need to cook dinner. There's so much going on. You want to listen to the latest podcast. Maybe you have the TV on in the background. So,
yep. Yeah. So because we live in the society that makes it hard to turn off, and we live in a society that glorifies the hustle rather than the rest that our body actually needs, it's really hard to turn off our brain when we are surrounded by so much stimulation. our mind, I like to call it the monkey mind. Our mind starts to bounce around from thought to thought like a monkey swinging from a tree. Or one of my other favorite analogies, especially for moms, is it feels sometimes like we're operating where we've got 128 different tabs open in our browser, and we're just constantly going back and forth like ping, ping, ping between all of them. And so when we are in this state, it often is causing us to be in that fight or flight mode long periods of time. We are really designed to be in fight or flight mode for very short bursts of time. It is a big output of energy for when we are being chased by a tiger. It is not meant to be our constant state. But when we are in it for so long, it creates what I like to call dis-ease in our body. So certain functions in our body become disrupted. And it becomes hard to think clearly or make decisions. Even simple things like, what am I going to cook for dinner tonight? It gets hard when there's so much going on in your brain and in your life. And with all of that clutter, all of that noise, it's also really hard to listen to our intuition and to connect inward about what actually makes us happy, what fills up our cup and what brings us joy. And we need that aspect in order to live a fulfilling life. And the other thing I'll say too is, as moms, when we have dysregulated nervous systems, it also impacts our family. Not to put any more pressure on us because we don't need that, but it is true. So, it may cause us to be less patient. It may cause us to be more irritable. A good example I like to use is when I am in fight or flight mode, I have some mischievous cats, and they oftentimes will knock things off the counter to get my attention. When I'm in fight or flight mode, I'm yelling at them. That is my response. I have no chill zone. When I have taken the time to do some of these mindfulness practices, the glass falls off the counter, it breaks, and I say, okay, I'm going to clean that up now. And that's the response. That's the true difference in being able to show up in a calmer way. And so this is why when I work with moms, when I coach, when I hold mindfulness events, I begin every session with nervous system regulation. I begin every session with a tool that you can take with you in your day-to-day life in order to have that calmer response.
So just your description makes me automatically think about like mom brain.
Yes.
Right?
I still have it, by the way.
Yeah, like the million tabs open. I don't think it ever goes away. I don't know. I really want to do an episode with like the science behind mom brain because it's literally a thing. So with all of that being said, then let's just talk about like some common signs that maybe your nervous system is dysregulated. Like how would I be able to tell, aside from the fact that I'm like very irritable or like that little sound upset me or whatever it may be? Like, what are some very simple, basic symptoms or signs that you would be able to be like, whoa, I need to take a step back here?
Yeah. So one of them is you may notice that your heart is beating really rapidly. You may even notice that it's like palpating differently than normal. The palms might be sweaty. Sometimes it feels like a blanket of anxiety that you just can't shake, that you can't get rid of. It can become very difficult to breathe deeply. So when we get in that fight or flight state, when our nervous system is dysregulated, we often breathe from the chest. And this can actually lead to hyperventilation over time. I know because it happened to me. When I was in college, actually, I woke up one morning and my hands were numb and tingly and I couldn't feel my fingers. And I was told by a doctor, you're so stressed out, you're not breathing deep, you're hyperventilating. I didn't even know that was possible, but that is my body telling me, hey, something is wrong. Trouble sleeping is a big one. I mean, in the beginning as a new mom, you're probably not going to get a lot of sleep anyway, but every minute that you can sleep, you want to be able to sleep. When you can't turn your brain off, it's very, very difficult to get that nourishing rest. And then you may also notice your stomach is upset. So that may mean that like you have trouble digesting things, you could feel gassy, bloated, etc. A lot of physical symptoms there, and I'm sure I'm just covering part of them.
Introducing the Mama Making Podcast, your go-to space for honest and empowering conversations about motherhood, pregnancy, and everything in between. Hosted by Jessica, a passionate mom navigating her own journey through motherhood, we deep dive into the highs and lows we all face as moms. Each Tuesday, tune in for candid chats with experts and moms, sharing practical parenting tips, new mom advice, and real-life stories that help you thrive. Whether you're expecting, dealing with postpartum challenges, or balancing life as a working mom, this podcast offers the community and support you need. Join us for discussions on self-care, mental health after childbirth, and the beautiful mess that is modern motherhood.
Yeah, but those are some that you can be able to, that you can feel right away, or that you can tell, like, okay, this is not normal, right? Like something is off. So this is the next part that I am actually really excited for you to talk about, because I feel like this is like your expertise. What role do practices like breath work, meditation, or movement play into regulating the nervous system?
I love all of these practices. They all work to stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system. So again, that rest and digest state. And when we're able to slow down, we can improve our focus, we can improve our concentration, we can boost our mood, and we can also regulate our sleep, our digestion. So I'll talk a little bit about maybe each one that you listed, just in terms of, how it works with the nervous system, what some of the benefits are. Breathwork is one that is a really simple tool. There's so many different ways that you can do it, and you can do it really quickly in order to feel the benefits. So it's one that everybody can do, and it can be as simple as you start to notice the dysregulation happening and you take a few deep belly breaths. Just 5 to 10 belly breaths is all it takes to start to shift the nervous system into that more relaxed state. So it can be that simple, or you can do more advanced techniques as well. But really, really beautiful, easy thing to do. And it's something that you can do out in public, because oftentimes no one even knows that you're doing it. And then meditation is a really amazing practice to help steady the mind. And there's kind of a misconception out there that in order to meditate successfully, I am not allowed to have any thoughts or any distractions happen, and I have to meditate for 10 or 20 or more minutes a day, every day. And if I don't do all of these things, then I'm not doing it right, and it doesn't work for me. But that's not true at all. Even just a few minutes of sitting and mentally scanning down the body, or tuning into your senses as you take a bite of food, that is a meditation. Or meditating outside while you walk and looking at all the beautiful objects and the colors, all of that is still meditation. And so you can do it, and you can stack it in with other things you're already doing, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. And then movement. So this is, how I started a lot of my journey in wellness is through movement, specifically through yoga. My journey has kind of shifted from power vinyasa yoga to a much more restorative, give me all the props, I want to lay down for 45 minutes type of yoga. But I can draw from any of those movement techniques no matter what state of mind that I'm in. And I've noticed that when I start to move my body, my mind starts to follow. So when I get those kinks out and I start to really feel inward, all of a sudden those distractions and those thoughts start to also melt away. So movement can be a helpful tool to pair with something like meditation. Move your body a little bit first and then sit down to meditate. It'll be a little bit easier. And then one more that we didn't touch on, that you didn't ask about, but I'm going to share it anyway because it's one that's near and dear to my heart, is sound healing. So if you haven't had an opportunity to listen to a sound bath or go to a sound bath live, it's an incredibly helpful tool to regulate the nervous system. There is actually science behind what it does to the brain waves. It actually slows down our brain waves so that we can experience that more restorative rest in actually a pretty short amount of time. So all of these practices are really helpful. And when I work with clients, I try to give them a variety, a toolbox of all these different methods that they can use and that they can draw from, so that no matter what they're experiencing, they can try different things and they can intuitively trust that the tool that they choose is going to be the thing that they need. And then I'd also want to talk a little bit about co-regulation, because as moms, this is something that does get brought up in the field a bit too. And that is our ability to model and show these self-care practices and these regulation techniques to our children. So when we take the time to breathe deep while we're holding our little one, or when they see us meditating in the morning, it's showing them that it's okay to take time for ourselves. And it shows them how to regulate and calm their big emotions. And they often start to mirror what we're doing. So when we start to take deep breaths, they start to take deep breaths. When you roll out your yoga mat, they might want to join you and do some downward dogs. And so it's a really beautiful experience to share that with your family. And doing that in your home or going out in the world to Mommy and Me classes is a really great way to bond with your little one and practice that co-regulation.
I love that you mentioned just having them see that we do these things, like make time for self-care. One thing that I do with my son a lot, if he's having a hard time, we do a lot of the deep breaths in to help him calm down instead of, oh, relax, or calm down, stop crying, right? Because obviously that doesn't work. But just as a way to teach him, like, this is going to help you calm down, and to give him that tool to use later in life.
That is so beautiful. I love that you do that with your son. And absolutely, it's something that will give him the tools to help in all of those hard situations going forward. So what a beautiful practice to share with your family.
Thank you. All right, so now let's talk about some tips that parents can walk away with. So someone that is just starting to focus on their nervous system and regulating it, what are some very simple and effective techniques that they can start to incorporate into their daily lives or daily routines starting now?
I'll start by saying that my goal here is not to add any more onto your already full plate. I don't want you to hear this and think, oh my gosh, I have to add in 5 more things to my day, because then at the end of the day, it's going to feel like a chore and it might not happen. There's a misconception out there that these practices have to take a lot of time and that it has to be its own separate dedicated thing. But at the end of the day, we can actually add it in to the things we're already doing. So some examples, if you're new to these practices, is while you're putting your little one to sleep, try to take some humming breaths. Get your voice involved. That voice not only calms your system, but it's also very calming to your little one. You can put on a YouTube sound bath while nursing. I know I mentioned that I did this a lot while I was nursing, and it's something that you can do for you, but it also has those double effects where it will help your little ones relax also. And then something really simple. When you grab your cup of coffee for the day, put it to your nose, smell the aroma, feel the warmth on your skin, open your mouth, take a deep breath. Let that liquid come all over your taste buds and feel the warmth as it comes down, like getting all of your senses involved. That's a meditation. So finding ways where you don't have to add anything more into your day. You're going to nurse anyway. You're going to put your little one to sleep anyway. You're probably going to drink your coffee or tea if that's your jam. Cool too. So put it into your day, habit stack, and do those things that you're already doing. And I know I mentioned habit stacking there very briefly, but that's another really helpful technique. So when you think about the things you're already doing in your routine, like you're going to have to get out of bed in the morning. That's a non-negotiable. Probably going to brush your teeth. Maybe you put on the tea kettle. So where in that routine can you add in that mindfulness? For me, it's when I put the tea kettle on so that I can make coffee. I know it takes maybe 5 minutes to heat up. That's when I sit on the couch and I take a few rounds of deep breaths and I do a little body scan meditation. And it only takes a few minutes to feel better. So it's like that one little thing, that tea kettle is the trigger that helps me know, okay, now it's my time to just sit and take a few moments for me.
Love those. Such easy little tasks that you can incorporate into your day, right? So finally, my last question. Do you have any other tips, suggestions, or recommendations for anyone that's listening to this?
One thing that I think is so important is finding community support and mentorship as a mom. I'll be the first to admit, well, not the first, I think probably every mom has said this, that being a mom is one of the hardest jobs out there. It's definitely one of the hardest things that I've ever done. There is a huge learning curve. The fatigue is so real. It impacts our nervous system, as we've talked about today. And so knowing that I am not alone in this, knowing that you are not alone in this is so important. And when I first became a mom, I really had to seek out that community and get connected with other moms who understood what I was going through and enjoyed activities that I also enjoyed, like yoga in nature, like stroller walks to go get coffee specifically. And so that was one of the things that really helped me in the early stages and really helped sustain me now and probably throughout all of the stages in motherhood. And so I have found support through San Diego Mom Crew, which is a wonderful mom group in San Diego. We are a sister group to Carlsbad Mom Crew, which I know you're also very familiar with. And so it's really great to see moms coming together from all parts of the city to take care of themselves, to take those mindful breaths, and also just to share about what they're going through and share recommendations and to get through the hard days together. So when we can take deep breaths together, it's even more powerful.
So true. And just making that time for you to connect with other moms as a busy mom, because we don't have time. So do something that you can incorporate your little one in, right? That's what I do, because I hate this term, stay-at-home mom. But yes, I stay, even though I don't stay home with my son. So you have to figure out how can you get that adult time and like connect with other moms going through the same or similar things.
Absolutely. It can be so isolating, and sometimes it feels easier to stay at home because you don't have to pack the diaper bag, you don't have to do XYZ. But at the end of the day, finding that community and that connection and that support really can be so helpful. And I promise you that getting up out of the house it gets easier every single time that you do it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and connecting with us and sharing everything about your experience and just about the nervous system. So, yes, thank you again. I will have all of your information linked in the show notes for anyone that is looking to connect with you or reach out to you. So, yes. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I do offer complimentary discovery calls for anyone who may be looking to work with me one-on-one. So please reach out to me. I just look forward to supporting you in your healing journey or seeing you at an upcoming event soon.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. You can find us on Instagram for more updates and tips. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a review if you like us.